Welcome to the Government News Brief for Thursday, February 16, 2017. In the news, CSME takes center stage as the 28th CARICOM Intersessional Meeting opens. The government is collaborating to provide Region 9 residents with employment, and stakeholders are brainstorming how to make the tourism product in Guyana safe. Stay tuned for these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here are the details. The Caribbean community's continued inability to expedite meaningful integration and effectively implement the Caribbean single market economy is putting the future of the Caribbean economies in jeopardy, says President David Granger. Details from Gabriela Patram.
The head of state was at the time addressing the opening of the 28th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM at the Marriott Hotel this morning. President Granger, the current chairman of the conference, says that if the Caribbean is to escape the hazard of economic emasculation in today's global environment, then it must expedite the full implementation of the CSME.
We face threats that include dampened demand for our goods and services and distortions in our financial sectors caused by de-risking by international banks. The CSME has the potential to enhance private sector growth and competitiveness by providing access to a larger pool of resources, facilitating the movement of human capital, catalyzing the establishment of regional businesses, and encouraging the free movement of goods. The CSME must not be allowed to become a victim of equivocation and procrastination.
CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LeBlanc says that the CSME was the best vehicle to promote the region's overall economic growth and development.
The majority of our member states have been grappling with low growth, high debt, and the consequent pressure on the fiscal position. The efforts to combat these challenges have been hampered by such matters as de-risking and the continuing damaging effects of climatic events, among others. Pursuing the course of action to emerge from that situation is therefore of paramount importance. I contend that dealing with those and other challenges demands more than ever that we work collectively and pool our resources.
In the past few years, the region has faced a mixed economic outlook. The vulnerability of the economies were exposed in 2016 as the new mosquito-borne virus Zika threatened tourism goals, and falling commodity prices impacted the fortunes of exporters of Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, and Guyana. Regional integration has long been seen as a response to protect the economies of the Caribbean from the effects and challenges from globalization and the emergence of trade blocs. Little progress, however, has been achieved under the CSME, which was established since 2006 to achieve this objective. The CSME, crime and security and correspondent banking are among the issues that will be discussed during the 2 days of the CARICOM's 28th Intersessional Heads of Government meeting. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
The Ministry of Social Protection will be collaborating with the Institute of Applied Science and Technology, IAST, to provide jobs for residents of Region 9. More from Zanil Williams.
The village of Hiowa is soon to have a production facility for orange marmalade. Director of the IAST, Dr. Suresh Narayan, explains that Hiowa is a community with very little economic activity. However, with funding from the Ministry of Social Protection, IAST will see the establishment of a factory which will make and sell orange marmalade.
We were able to find out that Hiowa has a tremendous number of orange trees. And right now, we're trying to work with the Ministry of Social Protection to put down a facility to produce orange marmalade. IAST has already formulated the marmalade, branded the marmalade, packaged the marmalade, and market tested the marmalade. So once we can build that facility, we know we have a process already developed on the science end and on the packaging and marketing end, so that we can move quickly with it.
The profits will be reimbursed to the Hiowa community. Dr. Narayan notes that with funding from the government, IAST continues to undertake projects aimed at enhancing the livelihoods of indigenous farmers and producers in Region 9.
In keeping with the geographical indicator idea, is called Taste of Hiowa. It says, enjoy the taste of Hiowa's organic oranges, sustainably grown on the pristine slopes of the Kanuku Mountains, ripened in the crisp, clean mountain air and fed by crystal clear mountain springs. Handpicked by the Makushi people of the region, our oranges are gently stirred in traditional open pans to give you a delicious, robust marmalade. Now, obviously, we're not producing this at scale yet, but that's what the packaging does for you. It doesn't just sell marmalade, it evokes the process and the environment within which the marmalade is made.
Apart from creating employment for villagers, others will be trained in manufacturing and marketing fields. Zanil Williams reporting for the Government News Brief.
Stakeholders are brainstorming how to make the tourism product in Guyana safe as the Ministry of Business collaborates with the Ministry of Public Health and the Caribbean Public Health Agency. More from Gabriela Patram.
Various stakeholders gathered today to discuss and work towards ensuring that there is a system in place which will address health issues arising from tourists visiting Guyana. Minister of Business with responsibility for tourism Dominic Gaskin says that neither development nor sustainable tourism can take place outside of a healthy nation. Addressing the workshop, Minister Gaskin notes that a sick nation cannot sustain a workforce.
Nevertheless, this is a priority sector for our government. We are gearing ourselves for an increase in visitors and growth and development within the sector. And we cannot ignore the fact that we are a small country, perhaps not physically, but we do have a small population. And it wouldn't take a huge epidemic to wipe us out completely. So if we are looking at having more and more people coming to Guyana, we must also ensure that there are sufficient safeguards to provide for adequate intervention in the event of, I don't know what the technical terms are, disease, is that the right term? For the transmission of diseases in and out of Guyana.
The workshop focused on areas such as surveillance, capacity building standards, and the healthy workforce. CARPA representative Dr. Lisa Indar says that Guyana is important to the Caribbean, and CARPA has been working with this country for the last 15 years. Dr. Indar says that the aim of the workshop is to make Guyana a safer place, not just for tourists, but for locals as well.
So with this system, we are looking at, given tourism is our bread and butter, and given for Guyana it is a vying industry that we want to expand, we want to then look through this program at what are these health threats that affect tourism. And we can really categorize it into a couple of things. First is food safety. So we just heard from Mr. Bash how important food safety is. We can go on for days that I can tell you the number of outbreaks of illnesses we have had due to food safety. We cook the food really well, but do we hold it well? No. Then somebody comes and then contaminates it through improper handling. So how do we ensure that what our visitor eat, even though it's tasting really good, is also safe?
In January 2014, CARPA, in collaboration with the Caribbean Tourism Organization, established the Regional Tourism and Health Program to address the health, safety, and environmental sanitation (HSC) threats in tourism. The aim is to improve the health and safety of visitors and locals, thereby contributing to the Caribbean's tourism being more competitive, resilient, and sustainable. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
The outdated Food and Drug Act of 1971 will be amended to cater to the modern state of Guyana in relation to food, drugs, cosmetics, and medical supplies. Details from Delicia Haynes.
Among major goals settled by the Government Analyst Food and Drug Department GAFDD is the laying of the amended Food and Drug Act along with its regulations in the National Assembly. This old document is expected to be adjusted to bring changes for the implementation of the GAFDD. The Ministry of Public Health has been instrumental in its support towards ensuring that this document is updated.
The Act we will do so quickly in terms of revising the Act to ensure that we have coverage for some area, because the Act has been since 1971. There wasn't any upgrade then, only relative to the fees. But there's some section of it where we're hoping to ensure that we are now a body cooperate, and therefore we have a little more flexibility in terms of doing things and to carry out our mandate.
Since the current act which governs the GAFDD contains outdated laws, the department cannot function efficiently as most orders and regulations are outdated. The accreditation of its laboratories is another of the department's goals for 2017.
You would see the Food and Drug Department laboratories being accredited according to the ISO 17025 standard, meaning what documentation we produce or test, what analysis that we do and we issue a certificate from the laboratory would be accepted in the international community, because we would have subjected ourselves to the process of the ISO standard, and therefore when we issue a document it would be recognized globally.
In most major countries, ISO 17025 is the standard for which most laboratories must hold accreditation to be deemed technically competent. Additionally, the commencement of construction of the new GAFDD complex is projected for this year. The total cost for constructing and equipping the building is $130.7 million. The department is currently housed at the Institute of Applied Sciences and Technology at the University of Guyana-Turkana campus. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
The Guyana Water Incorporated, GWI, has rehabilitated over 400 fire hydrants in Georgetown to create greater access to adequate water for the fire service during emergencies. More in this report. Chief Executive Officer for GWI, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, says that the fire service would not be able to perform effectively without water. Dr. Van West Charles explains that for years the fire hydrants in Georgetown had been neglected, but under his leadership, several fire hydrants were rehabilitated towards improving the services of the fire service.
We've completed about over 400. And as we go through the city, we are discovering more and more hydrants. There probably is an estimation of approximately 800 hydrants in this city, and we are gradually discovering where they are, so there's a process of rehabilitation.
The CEO points out that those efforts will extend across Guyana to allow the fire service and all fire engines to access water from new and refurbished fire hydrants. Dr. Van West Charles states that GWI will also collaborate with the government to have fire hydrants placed in new housing schemes.
We have to work too with housing to ensure that as new communities emerge, that part of that planning process is to ensure that hydrants are in the system and that water is available in case of fire to protect the residents within the communities.
Dr. Van West Charles is urging residents to be responsible and to safeguard the fire hydrants in their communities against vandalism. Meanwhile, Regional Manager Georgetown GWI, Curtis Niles, notes that GWI is moving to rehabilitate fire hydrants in other areas outside of central Georgetown.
Particularly in central Georgetown, we've been able to rehabilitate hydrants, and now, and that's like, I'm talking about Church Street, Lamaha, St. Road, right on to Hatfield Street, Water Street. That area we've been able to tackle. But we're going to the other, we're going a little more south to have those hydrants, and we'll go in the areas, in the Turkana areas, there are not hydrants there.
Niles says GWI is working on a Geographic Information System, GIS, to track and identify the location of fire hydrants. We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be updated as the news unfolds. You can also visit our website and YouTube channel. Do join us tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Thank you for watching.